Clint Bellows joining you, folks. I'm glad to be with you in a video environment today. You know me for many years on the radio nationally. We had a great time conversing. I was always told I had a voice for radio. You'll be the judge as to whether or not I have a face for audio. And it ain't Cary Grant, but it ain't Funky Winkerbean either. You'll make the decision, and we'll have a good time with it. 4 to 6, Monday through Friday. Join us for the Clint Bellows Show at the intersection of faith and reason. We are delighted to have you with us again on this Thursday afternoon. It's been a great week. It's been another interesting week that has been the case for about the last 111 weeks in a row since Donald Trump ascended to the presidency in January of 2016. My name is Clint Bellows. You know that. I'm delighted to be with you. I am your part-time political consultant. I have led a rather Forrest Gumpian life, as many of you know. And you know that my goal is to provide the best content and the best information and the best sources for information you won't get anywhere else or will have a hard time finding yourself. And to provide this kind of content to you, ladies and gentlemen, we've had to glean some of the really interesting people, not only in this country, but around the world, and to get their takes on what is happening in Washington and what is happening geopolitically and what is happening culturally and what will be the long-term effects from a standpoint of a spiritual perspective, which I make no apologies for. In fact, I'm proud of the fact we are highly dependent in terms of our content and our emphasis on this program, the Clint Bellows Show, Bellows Unplugged, at the intersection of faith and reason, to integrate your spiritual beliefs with your political and your policy beliefs, your worldview, in other words. We try to be of assistance to you, and many of you already have superior worldviews. You've taken an awful lot of time to think about what your views and different things are, and you can advocate them. You're welcome to call the show. We will be providing a way for you to connect with us. You can always text me at 949-887-9688. I'm a veteran of many years in the wars around the world of business and politics. I have lived in California, New York City, various places. Right now, we are from, about 3 miles from where the Strategic Command Center exists, in the geographic center of North America. It used to be called the Strategic Air Command when Curtis LeMay and Harry Truman invented it after World War II. And you may have seen it used in such great motion pictures as Failsafe and Dr. Strangelove, or How I Quit Learning to Worry and Love the Bomb. Okay, they took place at SAC, which I can see out my window right over the top of the world's finest view here in Omaha, Nebraska. The Henry Dorley Zoo, recently named the world's best zoo, believe it or not, here in good old Bugahaw by the Missouri River. We've recently dried out from about 2 weeks of intense flooding, and we have really appreciated the prayers of people from all over this country. We have to my left the American flag, folks. That's probably the last thing you'll hear me brag about that's on the left of me. Okay, I am really. I'm not right wing. I think what we're trying to do is create a way where you can help us think through policy positions, and we can come up with what we are really trying to do. We can separate the wheat from the chaff. You can look at what some of the obvious idiocies, banalities, vapidities, and really stupid stuff the left is trying to project upon us. What we seek here, folks, my fellow Americans, is we seek objective truth. And objective truth, not to get too technical with you during our first inaugural week on the air, but objective truth, folks, is something you won't find in Washington, D.C. very often. You won't find it on ABC, NBC, or CBS. You won't find it on the Communist News Network, which used to be called the Turner News or Cable News Network. That has faded to a couple of percentage points as a factor in our process today, and in this dissemination of information, because they don't have any. They simply have opinion disguised as news. And when you get to a point where an African-American anchor woman on CNN talks to my good friend David Webb from Fox Nation, who is also African-American, she's not seeing him the way you're seeing me. And she tells him the only way he got to climb as fast as he did through the broadcasting world was because he was a white guy and he benefited from white privilege. David said, well, it's too bad you didn't do your homework and you're not looking at me because I'm an African-American and I worked my way through it. One of the great all-time faux pas, okay? That's about like Bill Clinton talking about how sad he was as a little kid in Missouri when he heard about, Arkansas, when he heard about certain church bombings in Alabama, and he got the dates and times and situations wrong and his age is wrong. It's almost as ridiculous as Hillary Clinton telling us she was named after Sir Edmund Hillary when he climbed Mount Everest, when actually she was born 8 years before he made that climb. I mean, these are the kinds of ridiculous things you're hearing every day. What do you think of this guy on Jeopardy, by the way, Rob? This averages $130,000 a night. Okay. I don't know. Yeah. Rob's going, yeah, that's me. He looks a little like Rob. He's a professional gambler. Okay. And what he does in Jeopardy is he goes across the bottom of the screen. Okay. He doesn't start with, I'll take arts and sciences for 200. He says, give me the Old West for 2,000. Bang, 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 bang. Jeopardy, double Jeopardy. Before he knows it, he's $12,000 ahead of the other two people. They're sitting there shell-shocked, going, please don't hit me again. Okay. The guy, he not only is he winning like Ken Jennings did 15 years ago, I think this guy can beat the IBM computer. That IBM computer isn't going to go for 2,000 to start the game. He's going to start it at 200. Why? Because that's the way an American corporation builds a product to behave. Okay. Which is one of the problems we've got. We got to break out of this box of thinking that we're in. And when you talk about this deep, dark state, there are solutions to these problems. This guy studied this game of Jeopardy, which has been on forever, and said, I can do better. I can play the odds of this better. I've got a system. I can get so far up on the other people before they know it. It'll discourage them so much their confidence will fade, and then I'll just blow them away. And he went out and he had a studio set of the Jeopardy set, almost identical to what he was going to be in, put himself in the championship chair, got himself a microphone, and he got himself the little press button thing that you use to say, I know the answer. And he rehearsed that way for months before he went on the show. He wasn't even close, okay? I have to tell you, that's what we used to do. And at the end of World War II, when they asked the German High Command, how did the Americans get into this thing and get to Berlin in less than a year? They simply said, the Americans understand war. Okay, they understood what they were doing. And Americans had placed the leadership of what they did all the way down at the non-commissioned officer level. When they got to Normandy, they were able to get off the beach. The problem, and it was bloody Normandy, but when they got above the beaches, they ended up in these things called hedgerows that had been there since the Norman days. These large, tall, 12, 15, 20-foot high embankments filled with vegetation and trees that divided the farmers' fields. The Germans used those as natural sniper and defensive positions. They couldn't figure out how to break out of it until some engineer from an Iowa farm said, I know what we'll do. We'll put what amounts to, it looks like a wheat combine on the front of a Sherman tank, and we'll cut right through there. Nobody told him to do that. That didn't come from the Pentagon. It came from a guy, as Ron says, with a bottle of WD-40 and an idea. And before long, the Germans are going, how'd these guys do this? Had it been a German that was faced with that problem, he would have had to take it all the way up to Hitler to get should we do this or not? And if Hitler was even awake and he wasn't on barbiturates or, screwed up some other way, he probably would have turned him down. Americans improvise, they adapt, they adjust. They're very resilient. But right now, what we're in the process of doing, my fellow Americans, is stacking the game against ourselves. We're playing a really dumb game of nationalism. And by the way, nationalism is good. As Gordon Gekko said in the movie Wall Street, greed is good. I say capitalism is good. Nationalism is good. Okay. Let's quit apologizing for taking the gifts that God has given us and doing something with them. And thank you very much, you thousands of people out there who tend to agree with what I'm attempting to say. This is what this show's about. It's about, it's not that we're not going to talk about the fact that, Robert Mueller came out with a report. Excuse me. An 18-year-old was asked, and this guy was valedictorian of his class. And one of the top speakers at the high school graduation ceremony asked the class valedictorian, "What'd you think of the Mueller report?" You know what this genius in high school said? "What's the Mueller report?" Okay, how can you be in this country for the last 2 years and not know what the Mueller report is? Nick, you know what the Mueller report is. And he's a very smart young man. We're losing the education battle in the schools, by the way. Betsy DeVos has some very good ideas. And of course, the National Education Association, the NEA, which has one of the biggest lobbying groups in Washington, they're as big as any defense contractor. They spend more money getting tenure and getting their jobs protected than they do on doing anything for children. When you get to a point where a third grader can put a condom on 7 different kinds of produce, but can't spell the word cat if you spot in the C and the T, you've got a problem.